Welcome to the Coaches Preview Show. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. Very pleased to be talking about tonight's WCTV basketball game of the week, Page and Summit. Now, Coach Brock of Page is out on assignment, so he's not with us today. So we're going to talk this first 15 minutes with John Wild of Summit High School girls basketball. Coach, thanks for being here.
Appreciate you having me. Appreciate you having me. Good to be here. Good thing you're doing here with the athletics in the county. Get these kids exposure, and I think it's a great thing.
Now, you can be a good judge of this because you've known Dr. Qualls for years. Were these big or small shoes to fill?
For you?
Yes.
I think Jeremy did an excellent job.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I think he did an excellent job, and I think you've taken off right where he left off. I think you were very judicious in some of the changes that you made because it was so an even flow when he was here. But you know, you've added some things, and it's a great thing. And I think everybody from the outside looks at Williamson County as the model of how, you know, really an athletic program should be run. And hats off to him and you for, you know, doing this for the kids in the schools and the communities.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And your wife, Susan Wild, mentored Jeremy Qualls throughout the years, right?
Yes. She will refer herself as Jeremy Qualls' first babysitter. No, but she thinks a lot of Jeremy, and you know, naturally she's pleased that I'm here in such a good situation. You know, worked with him for a year, now working with you. Of course, we've got a past history at Franklin, and you know, out in 9 AAA, where our friendship started, and it's been really fun.
Coach, talk about this. You've been a few places, as you talked about, and maybe one of my best sales jobs. I called you up and said, hey, we got an opening at Franklin High School. Think you'd be a good fit. And you said, look, Wilson Central, we got it rolling. I'm happy here. Got a good team. But then, you know, a few weeks later, you said, you know what, maybe I'll come out there and talk to the folks at Franklin. Talk about just being in this district in general. You've talked about it a little bit already, but just how neat it is in terms of the athletes, the atmosphere, the education part of it. It's the whole package, right?
It is. And I remember coming down 840, and you called me that afternoon. And then I called you back about a week later. Now this is, you know, this athletic program, this school system is just run so efficiently. It's run very professionally at all levels. You know, from the curriculum level to the building level to the athletic level. You know, everybody from the director on down, I think, is very professional, very efficient in whatever, you know, their quadrant is. And it's something I wanted to be a part of, particularly later in my career. And I was fortunate enough that I was able to start at Franklin, and now I'm at Summit. You know, both really good schools and good places. And I'm just consider myself very lucky that I'm here. You know, from the athletic standpoint you talked about, I think the kids are recognized for their work through what you do, through what the ADs do at the school, through, you know, other agencies that promote them, you know, and deservedly so. I think, you know, it's evident at football games and basketball games, and even your spring sports, you know, the crowds and the student bodies that follow these kids. It's a neat thing, you know, particularly speaking as a basketball coach, as we get later on in the season and the district tournament gets closer and closer, I think you see the crowds pick up a little bit. You know, there's a little bit more meaning in the games because the district standings in, you know, both the girls and guys are so cluttered together, and that's a competitiveness.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it really is. You know, there's great girls coaches, there's great guys coaches, there's good girls and guys players, and I think particularly from the girls' end, it's a league that's grown and has garnered more respect, particularly through the last 3 or 4 years. I remember on the outside looking in, you know, it used to be Brentwood, and I think I told Joe this, Brentwood.
No doubt.
And now, you know, Centennial's been in a sub-state game in the last 4 or 5 years. Ravenwood's been in a state tournament in the last 4 or 5 years. And you see teams like Page, has gotten tremendously better since joining the league and coming out of AA. And it's, it's a fun thing. It's nerve-wracking at times. You know that.
And Nolensville too, by the way.
That's right. Chris has done an exceptional job down there. And they got a good run of kids right now, but he's molded them from when they were younger. And look at where they are now, and they're making a lot of noise in AA, and that's another team that could get to the state tournament this year, I believe. So, it's fun. It's nerve-wracking at times, like I said. You know that from being in that box that you were in over at Franklin on Tuesday and Friday nights the last 3 years. But on the other hand, it's as a coach, it's what you want to be a part of. So.
Yeah, and players too. And you talked about this. I was going to mention this later, but since you already have, let's talk about it more. You're right about this. I've said this for a long time, and this is no disrespect for everybody else in the league. It was the Ronnie Siegenthaler Brentwood High School League, and you knew when you matched up in the sub-state, you probably had a good chance to win if you were from that other league. But now I look at 9 AAA, which is the league you and I were both in before. I felt like that was the cream of the crop league. This league, in my opinion, is better now.
Well, and I would have a tendency to agree. And if you want to just start at the top and go down, Brentwood and Page, 2 exceptional basketball teams, okay? Dixon County, sub-state game last year, lost to Mount Juliet. The job Coach Glazner's done at Independence. Ravenwood in their run. They're right in the middle of the pack with us, okay? So you're looking at, 5 or 6 teams right there that, are all, and I know Brentwood and Page are up here, but the rest of us are just kind of right in the middle, and extremely competitive. And again, that's a credit to the coaches, it's a credit to the kids, it's a credit to the administrators for allowing the coaches to work and run their programs and that sort of thing. And it's definitely grown.
Well, you talked about Page, they're looking at second right now. You're in the middle of the pack. You play them at Page January 14th, shorthanded, right? You've been short. In fact, your team, and I know you'd never make excuses, but when you talk about illness and injury, your team is probably the most hard luck team in the league this year. But you go into Page, 46-38. You're in that game with a chance to win. I go to your Brentwood game a couple of weeks ago. You guys played great. You're down 15-2 early on the road. You fight back. I think Colson had a little shot over her shoulder. She makes that. It's either a tie game or you're up 1 late in the fourth quarter. So like you said, because you're 5th or 6th right now, it's not like you're not competing with 1 and 2. And in years past, 5 and 6 had no chance against Brentwood.
I agree. It's been topsy-turvy for us, and the kids have really bought in because we've had to shift kids into different spots. Some kids have had to play more minutes than they probably usually would have because of our situation that we've got going on with kids being out, periodically through the year. So, but I like the way they battled, and I've liked the way they've showed a lot of toughness and resiliency. And, the Page game over there, we play them tonight, but looking back at that one, we were up at the half. It was a 3-point game, middle of the fourth quarter. They're awful good. They have got some guards
that good.
Can score the ball, and they can score it at 3 levels. I think a good guard in high school basketball will score the ball at 3 levels. And Noe and Cochran and Wilkin can score it at 3 levels. They can score it at the rim, they can score it at mid-range, and they can make threes. And that's a tough assignment to be able to defend them. You mentioned the Brentwood game. Miles has done an exceptional job over there. They've got a lot of great chemistry. I think they pass the ball really well. We talked about that earlier in the week. They share the ball. It doesn't matter really who's scoring. But I thought we were competitive over there. Colson missed a little layup that would have tied the game. Osgood races to the other end and gets an and one, and that was pretty much all she wrote. But Amelia's a really good player, and she just went and made a play. And you add the twins into that equation, and then I think there's some unfairness there with Miles's team as far as some of the other kids. Everybody talks about Osgood and everybody talks about the twins. There's other kids on that team.
No doubt.
They're tremendous role players. that can stand and make shots.
Workman,
Yes.
Granzow,
Yeah.
Wampler,
Yeah. And
Roston.
Totally underrated
Yeah.
and totally overlooked. But those kids are good basketball players. They play within a system. They know their role. They can stand and make shots. You know, they can pass. You know, they're very coachable kids. From what I've seen, they've got a high IQ. So, you know, you add all that stuff together, and that's why they've lost one game, right?
Yeah, and Coach Thrash has really done a good job. Not easy replacing a legend like Coach Siegenthaler, and it's been obviously a smooth transition. Let's talk a little bit more about your team. And to me, when you talk about your team this year, it starts with your seniors, Taylor Penning, Megan Easterday, Marley Anderson. A couple stats here from three-point range in the district. Easterday 38%, Penning 35%, Anderson 34%. From the get-go, it was pretty obvious that your team, especially early in the season, without much of a post presence, right? That you're going to shoot a lot of threes, and you've really taken advantage of the three-point shot.
Well, you know, you plan all fall about how you want to try to play. And it really starts in the summer. And then it transcends to the fall and how you really want to play and attack the year. And, you know, we thought we were going to play a certain way. And then because of some certain situations with some kids, you know, we had to flip the script. So you're right. We had to be more of a perimeter-oriented team and, you know, shoot the ball from the perimeter. But those kids and those stats you just rattled off, you know, have done a good job all year in the league at shooting the basketball. When you take a high school kid that's shooting 34, 35 or better from three, I think that's pretty good.
Really good.
You know, I really do. There's a lot of college kids that are playing the game that, you know, aren't doing that. So, you know, those kids have done a great job. They've been tremendous leaders. They've shot the ball well. Easterday really, as of late, and I'm saying the last 3 or 4 weeks, has been exceptionally good for us. You know, she is a senior that's going to go to Bryan College and play. It's an NAIA school down in Dayton, Tennessee, and I think she'll have a great career down there. She's a stretch four that can kind of extend the defense from on top, and she's done well for us, and she's been a good leader. She's got some length to her, so, you know, in some of the quirky junk defenses we may play here late in the year, you know, she's going to pose a problem on some shooters because of her length, just roaming around and whatever kind of, you know, oddity defensively we may throw at somebody. So, you know, it's been good coaching her. It's been great coaching Marley and Taylor. I think Marley Anderson is one of the best vocal leaders I've ever had in 30 years.
Yeah, you said that early in the year, and that's impressive because you've coached a lot of years.
Well, she can
a lot of really good teams.
Well, she can talk and she can communicate with teammates in a positive way and still get her point across. And she's just a really good leader. And then Penny's going to kind of lead by example. She plays hard. She's a good system kid. Teammates like her. You know, she's just one of those kids that, you know, even though I've only had a chance to coach her 1 year, you kind of wish you would have had her for, you know, 4 years, because she's totally bought into what we've been doing, and they've been really fun. They have. And they've been really resilient through everything we've gone through.
Coach, if the season ended today, and obviously it doesn't end today, there's still some games to play, it looks like you're going to match up more than likely with either Independence or Dixon. Right now it would be Dixon. I have my thoughts about what the better matchup is for you. Obviously, if you're at full strength, I think you got a chance in either game. But to me, if you get, and you don't have to answer this, and you probably wouldn't, if you get Independence, that seems like a game that's a little better matchup for you. Obviously, a lot of basketball to play. Now, final question for you before we talk to the boys' coaches. 46-38 in that first game at Page. What do you have to do tonight to maybe flip that script?
Well, you know, I think we got to take care of the basketball because they're athletic. You know, they're going to play some zone. They'll mix in some man. They're going to do some stuff up the floor. And with their zone, they're very active. They extend it. They bump out on the wings. They're going to pick you up at half court in what looks like a 1-1-3. Then they're going to bounce to a 2-3. And we're going to have to value possession. We're going to have to take care of the ball. You know, 10, 12 turnovers is kind of where we want to keep it. If we get upwards of that, we're going to have problems. So that's where I would start in tonight's game. You know, then on the defensive end, they're really hard to guard because, like I said earlier, they got 3 guards that can score at 3 levels. And then I think Wilson's underestimated in the post also. She's long, she can step out and shoot it. You know, she can bother you on the interior when you go attack the rim. So, you know, and Ron's done a good job with them. And, you know, and here's the thing that's scary. You know, they're still pretty young.
Yeah, they are.
You know,
they are.
so,
They lose Wilson, and that's it.
Yeah.
Who's a good player, obviously.
No, she is. And Delaney can really run a team. I think she is good at getting them into what they want to do. She can make open threes. You know, she can get in the lane. I think any good guard can get in the lane, and her and Cochran and Wilkin can all get in the lane.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. We've got some ideas. So we'll just go play. And if past history of these games tends to hold true, I think you'll see our kids compete. I think you'll see our kids play within our system. I think you'll see them play at a high level like they have here of late, and just give it their all.
Looking forward to it, Coach. Appreciate you being here. I know you're busy. We'll be back to talk to the boys' coaches right after this message.
You know the most important lesson you can teach your kids about playing sports is concussion signs and symptoms. After a hit to the head, if they have any concussion signs like blurred vision or headache, they need to stay out of play until they're checked by a healthcare professional. Play safe when it comes to concussion. When in doubt, sit them out. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. This is the other thing you can teach them. Comes in handy.
Welcome back to the Coaches Preview Show. We're talking about tonight's matchup, Page High School at Summit High School. We now have our boys' coaches, Coach Larry Noe of Page and Jim Fay of Summit. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
January 14th, Summit comes out on top 42-39, a hotly contested game. In fact, both of you guys, we were talking before you came on. There's been a lot of those games in this district this year when you're talking about overtime games or close games. So that game was no exception to that rule. Expect the same thing tonight. Coach Noe, a big win on Tuesday night, double overtime at home against Ravenwood, 74-62. And I was taking a look at your team. 9 district losses, but 7 of those have been by 13 points. You have to know mentally you can beat anyone, but that's had to have been brutal at times too.
It is. I mean, it's hard for the guys, you know, to keep their beliefs up when it comes right down to the wire, and we seem to give the win to the other team. But you know, it's just staying confident, being positive, and trying to get the guys to understand that, you know, we're in every game, and sooner or later the ball is going to fall our way, and it did for us the other night.
And if my math is correct here, you guys were like 9-0 outside the league, right?
That is true.
So that's what's so neat about the league. If you take a look at it, you guys are sitting in 7th right now, can beat anybody in the league, no doubt about it, and you go outside the league and go 9-0. So that talks about the strength of our district for sure, Coach.
Well, I've said this. I've been in this league going on 18 years now as an assistant coach, and then the last 4 years as a head coach. And I'll put this league up against anybody at any time. The coaching in this league is a step above most of the people outside. You know, you go over to Murfreesboro, and there's great coaches there as well. But at the same time, you know, this league, we find there's coaches that find a way to win every night.
No doubt about that. Coach Fay, before we talk about your team specifically, tell our audience a little bit about your background. Spent a lot of time there at East Nashville, right?
I was at East Nashville for 23 years, had a great run, probably had the most successful team of the last decade, 4 state tournaments, 2 state runner-ups, had some great kids, tough decision to leave, but I feel confident about the decision that I made. I made it for my family and for other opportunities, and I've really enjoyed my time, albeit short. I've enjoyed my time at Summit High School and Spring Hill.
Well, you know, I think there's good fits and bad fits everywhere. You hope as a coach you get in a situation where it's a good fit. You were a really good fit, obviously, at East Nashville, did a great job there. And the marriage between you and Summit High School seems pretty darn good, too.
It's been really positive. I've got a great working relationship with the other coaches and administrators in our building, and the kids have really jumped in and bought into what we're trying to do. They kind of understand what I'm trying to bring to the table, and it's been a lot of fun. We've moved to the Spring Hill community. We're a mile away from the school, and so that's made it really positive as well, because my journey to East was about 40 minutes every day, and now it's only 6 minutes based on the 20-mile-an-hour speed zone, but down the street. But yeah, it's been great, and I'm really fortunate to be there, and I'm grateful to Miss Lamb for choosing me to take over the job.
Well, I think it was a smart move on her part. Let's talk Paige a little more specifically. You guys coming in 15-9, 6-9 in the league, big double overtime win, as we mentioned before, over Ravenwood on Tuesday, 74-62. And a name popped up in that game, Thomas Seaman. Get to overtime, and that guy, man, was he playing well. I think he had 10 points going into the first overtime. He scores 6 in overtime number 1. And then you guys are down 6, right, in overtime number 2?
We're down 6 with at 1 point, and then Thomas gets a loose ball. We get a timeout, get the ball back. He starts hitting threes, and it changes the momentum of the game.
12 points in that overtime for him.
Yes, sir.
Which was big.
Yes,
so let me ask you this, Coach, and I think I know the answer to this. What's your mindset as the season finishes? To me, maybe it's about the matchup, but when I look at your team, I think you match up well with a lot of teams.
We do. We've got good post presence inside. We've got a good point guard, a 2-guard, Blaine Burrow. We got some guys that can shoot the ball, Mason Allen, Thomas Seaman. It helps to have Jaime Hernandez at 6'10" on the inside, and he's playing physical now. And
really improved, hasn't he?
He has in the last year. And what our biggest thing is, what I always has said going down the stretch, it's more about your mindset going into the tournament versus what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Coach will tell you, he knows us, we know him. Everyone in the league kind of knows each other by now, and now it's just getting guys to believe in what you do and then following through with their jobs. What your expectations are. Obviously,
a lot of things can happen over the next week or so, but if the season ended today, you guys would have a rematch in the first round. Obviously, that can change, but that's what it would be. Summit, your team 16-5. 11-3 on the year, had that overtime win at Franklin on Tuesday. The thing about that game, somebody had mentioned to me after the game, which, I don't always believe what I hear, but I had that referee, and it was the greatest ref game ever in terms of letting you guys be physical. That very much to me felt like a district championship kind of game because of how they let you play. Did you like it that they kind of let it go? Not in a bad way. It didn't get too rough, but it was very, very physical.
There was nothing out of line, and what you would want to have said about the officials in a game like that, they didn't make a difference one way or the other. They allowed the game to be played, called what they felt like needed to be called, and at the end of the day, the kids determined the outcome of the game. And so, yeah, the officiating was fine. Like all coaches, none of us are going to be happy with everything that's called or not called. And it's our job to work our way through it and make sure that we can maintain some composure and get us to where we need to be down the stretch and get the win. So yeah, I was fine with the officiating. I'm sure Jason was fine with it.
He was fine with it. He was fine with it for sure. The thing I've always thought about physical play, as long as it's not dirty play, they can let some of that go on, which Absolutely. You guys, it was a very clean but physical game. So it was, I'm telling you, from my seat, with no pressure, it was a lot of fun to watch. Coach your team, Coach Fay, I think you're the hottest team in the league. I think how you've played lately proves that. And you have such young players on your team still. Obviously, Keaton and Destin Wade, Conger, Wirtz, the list goes on and on. And then the addition of Trey Carlton's been big for you guys too, right? You're really only senior that's getting a lot of playing time, right?
Right, he's my only senior starter right now, and he's done a really good job for us. There's been some ups and downs that's going to take place with transition from one school to the next, from one coach to the next. So there's been a little bit of a learning curve, but for the most part, he's done everything we've asked of him, and actually, I think he played one of his more complete games last night. We put him on Reed Kemp, who I think is one of the better he may be the best player in our league. And he did a really good job on him. He had a couple of breakdowns, and I understand why he had the breakdowns. But overall, he did a great job, and I think that was a large factor of us being able to come away successful with the win.
If you take a look at the league standings right now, Brentwood 11-2. They've still got to make that Dixon County game up too, so a lot can happen there. And they also play Centennial. Summit 11-3, Dixon 10-3. Franklin and Centennial looks like they're going to be in the 4-5 game, and then Ravenwood and Page both at 6-9. Coach, no, we talked about this before. If you ended in a tie, Ravenwood gets that tiebreaker because of that win over Brentwood, right?
That is correct.
If you look too, Coach, no, because I know you've been in the league here for a little bit. What stands out to me, and maybe this isn't the correct assessment, but I don't think the league is as top heavy as it's been. To me, I think 8 could beat 1. I really believe that. I don't think Spring Hill can beat number 1, but I think Indy could.
Right, I agree. I mean, we went to Indy and they beat us on the last second shot with 1.2 seconds left, and then we had some breakdowns, but they played hard and they were in the game. Doug's doing a great job over there. Brentwood is a great team, but I don't know that they are just so far ahead of everyone else. We had them beat at our place and, had two calls there that kind of turned that game around. Dr. Pantal asked me the other day, he said, don't you want to be around third? And I said, it really doesn't matter.
No, I don't think it matters either.
We can be 7th, we can be 8th, or we can be 4th or 5th. And I think, we still have a good chance of being in that championship game.
Coach Fay, I know you've mentioned this, just the atmosphere at these games and at the football games and those kind of things. Talk about the level of competitiveness here in your first year compared. I know it's hard to remember every one of those 23 years before at East Nashville, but just talk about that there compared to here.
It's hard to remember what I had for breakfast. So. The difference right there, you're right, it is super competitive. The student sections at all the schools are very impressive. Probably not as much on Tuesday nights a lot of times because I know there are other things going.
Studying.
It's a school night. Yeah, I hope they're studying. But on Friday nights, if you're on the road, you're going to get the full force of a student section at wherever you play, and it's pretty impressive and it's really cool as well. But that atmosphere is extremely good. The competitiveness, everybody's trying to find a way to get an advantage. There's a lot of phone calls about, hey, what did you do against this team? We pretty much, everybody's been good about swapping films and sharing films. But at the end of the day, our kids have to make plays. And if kids are making plays, you're in great shape. If they're not making plays, then you might have less hair than me. So it's just one of those things. But the competitiveness, the atmosphere, can't say enough about Williamson County Schools and what they bring with regards to those two areas.
Well said. Coach, no, you lose by 3 last time. Obviously, it was a play here or there. What are some keys for you guys to get over the hump tonight against Summit?
The biggest thing is we got to stop the Wade twins. I mean, those guys can play. They're physical down around the basket. They can shoot the 3 ball really well. So we got to up our defense on those guys. We got to stop the guards from getting downhill. Trey's done a great job for Coach getting downhill, creating. Getting those guys shots, and so our emphasis is going to be containing him. I don't want to give too much of the game plan away, but I think Coach knows he knows what we've got to do to win, and he knows what he has to do to win. But our guys, as Coach said, we were talking beforehand. It's all about players at this point making plays. I think Seaman's got to have a big game. I don't think he played last time we played each other. He was out with an injury. So we're hoping, he matches up better with one of the Wade guys and one of the Wade twins. And, we got to have an inside presence. Burrow's got to get downhill, and Mason Allen's got to hit threes.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much our game plan.
Coach Fay, final thought here. Last time was a low-scoring battle. You expect that kind of game again?
Probably so. I'm hopeful that Coach No has some more physical practices the next, that he's kind of worked guys over. They were shorthanded last time. I know that it probably in some way had to help us. I don't know how much. He does have some really good shooters. Mason, is it Allen?
Yeah, he can shoot.
God, he can really fill it up. I really like him, the way he plays. I think I called a junior college coach about him. You need to look at this guy because he can shoot. And that's the thing. Everybody in this league has some kind of knockdown shooter, and that's another difference here, that if you have a defensive breakdown, somebody's going to make you pay for it, because this league is tremendous with outside shooters. I feel good about my guys because we have a pretty good, strong inside game and physical presence. But at the end of the day, it's going to be determined by the kids. And Coach Noah and I are going to sit there and just scratch our head on a lot of things throughout the course of the night. But I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. Senior night for our kids, and I think it's going to be a fun game. So I hope everybody that's available comes out to watch the game, because win or lose, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be there. Gentlemen, looking forward to tonight's game. Looking forward to the tournament coming up. I know you guys will have some sleepless nights, but I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be real exciting. Appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you for having us.
We'll see you next time on the Coach's Preview Show.